excited to be part of this session and that you're here, Alannah, and Namita is going to introduce you.
Oh, very nice. All good things.
Thank you. Obviously. Hello, and thank you for joining us today through WebEx. My name is Namita Joshi, Manager of Disbursements and Innovation at the True Patriot Love Foundation. With generous funding support from our partners at Bell Let's Talk, True Patriot Love is pleased to support the continuation of the webinar series first launched by PEI MFRC in 2016 through funding from the Bell TPL Fund. The Bell TPL Fund is a joint $1 million fund which provides funding to mental health programs across the country which support military families. True Patriot Love and MFRC-PEI are proud to present Operation Care for the Caregiver. True Patriot Love's focus on support for military families and mental health highlights the critical role that caregivers within military families play. We are impressed by the caliber of speakers the PEI MFRC is able to provide and look forward to this ongoing and important dialogue occurring across the country. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce Alannah Gilmore. Alannah is a veteran, retired sergeant medic of 23 years. She is mother of 2 young daughters and spouse to a severely wounded soldier. Since retiring, Alannah continues to serve with the veteran community as a volunteer veteran advocate, working on the Minister of Veteran Affairs Advisory Group on Families, and also with the Legion's new OSI Special Section as an executive on behalf of families. Alannah will share with us her journey and give us her thoughts on what she does to care for herself and how this helps her to give back to her family and her community. Thank you for joining us today, Alannah. Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Namita. Aw, shucks. I know I saw that in print before, but it would just sound so much better. So, does this mean I begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you for joining me tonight, and thank you for having me tonight. Full disclosure, I can't remember the last time I've had to create a PowerPoint presentation. So it was kind of like learning on the fly. There's a little bit of frustration. Might have been a few tears shed as well. At the end of the day, I think what I've done thus far, it looks pretty good, and if I get asked to do it again, I'll know areas I can tweak it. So I guess I have control now, correct?
You do, and we encourage everybody to use the chat to add your comments, and the chat is located on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And comments, put questions in there. Sue and I are going to be monitoring the chat together, so have at her with as many comments as you'd like, and we'll keep you posted on the questions that come up.
Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can figure out how to work this. How do I change slides? Okay.
So you see the 01?
I found it. Sorry, you guys are going to enjoy some of my technical difficulties, but that's okay. That's totally personal. So here we go. So again, big thank you to Margaret and her staff at MFRC-PEI. I'm very honored to be here and tell you about my story and what it's been like for me as a soldier, a medic, spouse, a caregiver, mother of young daughters, and now being retired and serving as a veteran advocate for the military veterans and their families. So, you know, I was trying to figure out, I'm like, how do I start? So, kind of, who am I? And I think this, you know, for a lot of people, they'll totally resonate with this. So, I am many things to many people. I've worn many hats, and I'm expected to be on my game 24/7. So any parent of young children know that that's pretty much what you're doing when they wake up in the middle of the night and end up in bed next to you, or they have a cold. So you're always ready to go. So I am a soldier, a spouse, a mother, a sister, a daughter, a veteran, a caregiver. I'm a lot of things. So to begin, I was an Army medic for 23 years, and Jody actually is the one that says I was drafted at birth. So I adopted and put it into my my presentation here. I was a dependent of my father, who retired at 34 years. And because the military is in my blood, I felt I wanted to experience it for myself, and I joined the Army Medical Reserves while I was still in high school at the ripe old age of 18. But I look back and I look at this picture and I think, oh, I miss those cheeks. So as medics, we wear many hats. We are soldiers, clinicians, humanitarians, therapists, and we are like mothers. So we look after our wounded, we look after our injured, we look after, you know, the guys, the girls that just have a cough but are too stubborn to do something about it. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is we put ourselves out there and we focus so much on them that we don't take any time for ourselves. So oftentimes the caregivers end up succumbing to having issues as well, because who are their therapists? Who's looking out for their well-being? And so this isn't just from a spouse perspective, it's also from the caregiving aspect of being a medic within the military. So in 2006, I was deployed with the 1RCR battle group to Afghanistan. My job was as an armored Bison crew commander. And this majority of my time, I was attached to one of the companies, Bravo Company. And we provided the med support. We were located in the mountains. We moved to Kandahar City and to Panjwai, where you probably heard where the bulk of the fighting was happening for the Canadian soldiers. On my tour alone, we lost 19, and we had numerous wounded. So one particular night would actually end up changing my life forever. So here's a picture of me, and that's the back of my Bison ambulance. And the crew are the two gentlemen sitting at the back leaning against the white part of the vehicle. And the other two, they were stationed at the patrol base where we were at. It's one of my favorite pictures. We didn't take a whole lot of pictures, but I reflect on that, and you know, we had a really good group of people on that tour. So on January 11th, 2007, his life changed forever. So this is Jody Middick. So Jody is my spouse, and we've been together for, well, I mean, we just celebrated his 10th Alive Day. So, I mean, technically, we've been connected, very connected, for about 10 years. So in the wee morning hours of January 11th, 2007, we got woken up because there had been an explosion. And at the time, we had no idea what we were responding to. It was going through 3 different call signs. All we knew is that it was a Canadian soldier and he was really hurt. So because my job is to coordinate treatment and patient evacuations, we made every effort that we could to get the ambulance to his location. Unfortunately, at the time, based on the terrain and the geographical area where he was injured, there was concern that the AM wouldn't be covered from the enemy well enough. So there was talk of me jumping into the lab with some of the infantry crews along with some other medics, and we would at least make our way out there and there'd be more medics on the ground. So that's what we did, and we started pushing forward. So you have to picture, this is Afghanistan in the desert, dead of night, and obviously you can't use any lights at all to draw attention to you. And we're trying to, you know, find the needle in a haystack. And I remember this one point we stopped, they lowered the ramp, we got out, you know, we're aiming our weapons just out to protect the vehicle while they were trying to figure out where they were going. And I just remember looking around going, wow, this is not good at all, because we had no idea where we were. But then they managed to get a hold of one of the bulldozers who came out, and he was able to plow a whole new road or a whole new path to Jody's location. And the Bison Am was able to tuck in and join the rest of the convoy. So when we actually finally got there, the ambulance joined me at that location. So because it was so dark, and when we saw Jody onto the ground, I was so focused on what I had to do as a medic. I knew it was a Canadian soldier. I knew that it was imperative that we get him stabilized as much as possible onto the stretcher and then get him to a safe evacuation point. So it never occurred to me to ask. I just, focus, don't get tied into it, just do your job and move on. So once we had him loaded and we moved him into the back of the Bison, there's like this dim green light. And all of a sudden I just saw his face. And I felt my heart stop because I knew the extent of the injuries and I knew what impact that would have for him. And then I remember thinking, thank goodness he's going back to Canada. So a lot of things happened in between coming back from the tour. I actually had started training the next group going over. I was actually considering going back. So it was like we hit the ground running. It was like, we were the first in our area of Canada that had just been in war fighting. And it was a lot of lessons learned, a lot of information that needed to be passed down to the next group going over. So in September of 2007, we reunited. And, at first, we hung out because we needed friendship. We'd hang out with people that were there just because we didn't have to talk about it. It was completely understood what happened. Until more rotos went over and more people came back with experience, it felt very isolating. And at the time, I was working at the National Defense Medical Center here in Ottawa, and this was after I came back, and they still didn't quite get what I did over there. So it was tough. It was really hard, and sometimes after you've been through something, that traumatic, it's really hard to reintegrate back into Canadian society, when, on this end, from this perspective, Canadians have it great. So I found even just coming back in and reintegrating, I found that for myself to be quite tough. So I recognized that he was alone, his relationship had broken up, my relationship had broken up, and I recognized, like, he needs his medic. So we started hanging out as friends, and that blossomed to more, and like I said, here we are. And I decided to put a shameless plug for his book, Unflinching, Making of a Canadian Sniper, here on the screen. So if you haven't read it, I think it's a fantastic book, of course, but I've heard from plenty of others that would also agree. So there's my shameless plug. So navigating the way ahead. So what did we notice? When Jody was wounded, he's a double below the knee amputee. He lost both of his feet to a landmine. And when he got back, they had, modified a PMQ-ish so that he would have a place to live, that he would have a place to bath, be able to access the kitchen. But what we started really recognizing early on is that the military had very little in place to care for ill and injured. So the stress on my family, as well as others that followed, was completely disheartening. And unfortunately, I would say it was far more stressful than, living daily in Afghanistan, which is awful considering the time that, soldiers need the most support is right at the time of the injury. So we were very disillusioned, and we thought for the longest time that the system would quickly catch up. But it's been a decade since Jody got back, and it's only been in the last couple of years that I've seen bigger improvements. But unfortunately for us, it was just too many years, and it compounded symptoms that we already had. And, you know, I used to say it was like a Jenga puzzle. I was adamant I was strong enough, I could handle anything you threw my way, I could take you all on. But unfortunately, when you have people, it's not because they were malicious or had the intent to do harm, but arrogance and, you know, not doing your research and not fighting for what's right, unfortunately, these are symptoms that are going to have an overall effect on the family. So I say that too many Jenga pieces got pulled at the same time, and I crashed. So I was totally burnt out. And just so you give you a bit of perspective, it took us a year while we were in Petawawa to try and get a house modified. When that wasn't going anywhere after a year, he had an opportunity of getting posted to Ottawa. So we came to Ottawa. We bought a house in 2009. We moved in at the end of 2010, so December 2010, and that was because I needed out of the unrenovated, like it was a not accessible PMQ. So we moved in December 2010. The house then did not finish until the end of the following year, and we had issues with the contractor, issues with National Defense. That's a whole other presentation right there, so I will not get into it other than the fact that it was horrible. And it did damage. It really affected, you know, all of us, our entire family. So if you consider the fact that my daughter was born in September of 2008, and he didn't get into a mostly renovated, accessible home until the end of 2010, that means at night, when he couldn't use his wheelchair, he would have to crawl to the bathroom or crawl to his daughter's room, who was just an infant at the time, so that he could access her. So that's just, you know, a little bit more graphic, but I mean, this is the seriousness of what the families are living. And you know, when people go to work Monday to Friday and they shut their computer down at 4 o'clock, well, that doesn't, my family's 24/7. So that, we continue to live in, you know, the difficult environment. So yes, so at this point I was very burnt out. So once you crash and you basically hit bottom, it's a big effort to, you know, crawl your way out of it. So I would say it's probably taken me several years to get back some semblance of who I was before. You know, once the house was done, once we no longer had any more interference with D&D or the contractor, lots of trial and error. And then I realized I have to start focusing on what's working and what's not. You know, I remember there being a time where I felt so negative all the time, and I was drawn to negativity, and it was like, oh yeah, you know, I can fight this, I can do that, and I was just angry all the time. And then I realized being angry doesn't improve my mood. It's not improving my quality of life. So I need to recognize, you know, what is negative and what is positive, and to start, you know, moving in a positive direction. So I actually found myself removing, you know, myself from certain groups, and, you know, if a lot of negative, like, language was being, you know, said, and, you know, not that I don't think everyone's got their right to vent and complain and be upset, and you have that right to be negative. It was just, for me, I needed to crawl out of that. So I needed to subject myself to as much positive as possible. So that's what I've been doing, and I still have a long way to go, but at least I am moving in the right direction. So here's some pictures. So the first one on the left-hand side shows Jody in the wheelchair. He doesn't have his legs on. There's Ayla, that's my oldest, so she was a baby. And this was in Petawawa at one of the first Red Fridays we attended since coming back from Afghanistan. So this would have been about about a year and a half after we got back. At the bottom right photo is a fundraiser we did for the hospital that was treating him, his rehab hospital that was treating him after he got back from Afghanistan in Toronto. So we did that a couple years in a row, actually, and raised a lot of money. And then up top, he ended up having to have surgery again on his residual stump. And, you know, these are complications that someone with amputations or severe wounds are going to have, is that, you know, once you are, you know, hurt to this degree, you are going to have wounds on the bottom of the residual limb just from, like, rubbing with prosthetics. He has a bad tendency of overdoing it. Which I give him grief for all the time, because when he does overdo it, then he can't just wear one prosthetic leg. So it's two or none. And then that makes him wheelchair bound. So when he becomes wheelchair bound, that means everything relating to the house, to the kids, to the cooking, to the majority of the cooking, the cleaning, any errands outside, because he doesn't have a vehicle that he can drive when he doesn't have his legs on. I remember at one point he had done all the testing for it, and somehow I don't know if he didn't qualify or, you know, he retired too soon. I'm not sure what happened with that, but the fact is it's the reality that we both have to do self-care. So he needs to look after himself. I need to look after myself. And, you know, then we can look after each other as well. Caring for the caregiver. So I like this, the caregiver tip. Even the most resilient people need a reminder about taking steps to preserve their own health and well-being. I don't know how many out there are probably like, I can handle it, I can do it, you know, no way do I want to, you know, bring someone into my troubles. And then you realize that it takes a village. And to have that community and to find others in the same boat as you need to share, and you need to allow people to help. So new normal. So for those of you who have family members that are ill or injured, I'm sure this will resonate with you. When someone has changed, it was a traumatic incident, maybe they have PTSD, you're going to be adapting, and you're going to be figuring out what your family's new normal looks like. And there's nothing wrong with it. It is what it is. But now you just have to figure out what that is. And once you do that, you will, like, everything will start falling into place. But you need to figure out the new normal. So how do we adjust? And then I'm sure the question, can I do it? Again, you're looking at, you know, for some people, severe impairments, whether it's physical, whether it's mental. And then you look at how much is going to fall on your shoulders. And you ask yourself, can I do it? Yes, you can. Do you want to do it alone? Probably not. And if you can, you need to build that community. You need to let people in. You'd be impressed at how much people are willing to help. You also need to recognize your challenges, your limitations, and you want to be able to access the resources, any funding that's out there that can help with the family, and obviously more access to information. So what happens when I expect too much of myself? I push too hard and look after my own self too little. Can anyone else relate?
Yes. This slide is speaking to me.
Absolutely. We all take on, like, if you think you take on the world yourself, like maybe you're just one of those people who's like, you know, you get asked to be, you know, part of this board, and then something at the school, and then you've got a friend who needs this, and oh, can you watch my kid? And then you add on, you know, everything that you have to do at home. You know, you're just spreading yourself thin, thin, thin. And I don't know about you, but I like nice thick cream cheese on my bagels, so I like to keep a little bit more so that I have a bit more substance on my end so that I can actually handle myself. So self-care is not selfish, because you cannot serve from an empty vessel. And I thought this was perfect because for whatever reason, as caregivers, because we're so focused on giving everything of ourselves to our kids, to a family member, maybe it's a friend, to our spouse, we keep forgetting that we have to count. And that if we don't look after number one, because we are number one, then everything else that we're doing, we won't be able to sustain that. So I'm a big fan of recognizing why it is so important for self-care. So I found this, Caregiver Survival Tips. And it's really interesting because I've been doing this for like 10 years, and I still don't know all the all the resources that are out there. I'm still learning. There's plenty there, but I look at like little sheets like this, and I'm like, well, it never occurred to me to maybe see, you know, what are some things I could do for my own personal self-care. And so I find this little chart here. So I've got them rewritten. So our caregiver survival tips. Planning ahead. I am such a planner. If I do not plan, it does not happen. I make lists for everything. I mean, this might be relating to, I don't know, some PTSD symptoms, but the fact is that I need to plan. And if I want to be more active, I have to plan for it. And my best thinking is done at night. So the evening, the nighttime, when I'm like most clear, I do all my lists. I'll do my prep for the next day, you know, identifying what the important things are, prioritizing. And also the big thing is recognizing how busy the next day is, or the next week, or the next month, so that I can like mentally prepare what needs to happen between now and then. Learning about available resources. So if you find yourself, if you've been at it for years, or if you're just newly integrated into the caregiving aspect, going online, find resources in your local area on the bases, Veterans Affairs site. I also included the States has a lot of caregiver tools as well. So you can look at, you know, apps for your tablet and your iPad, your iPhone. You can look at going online to the online tools that VAC has. You can check local community groups. Go online to social groups. And the reason why online is great is, you know, especially if we're caregiving, we don't always have the luxury of time. So having the ability to still have that interaction is really important. The other one, take one day at a time. It can be so overwhelming. Again, depends on, you know, the condition of the person you're caring for, you know, what's coming up in their treatment plan, what their status is. So just remind yourself, before you get too far ahead and you start getting overwhelmed and you start getting anxious, just bring yourself down to, let me get through today. Developing contingency plans and acceptance. So I say with the acceptance part is, you know, once you recognized what your scenario is, what your situation is, then you can start moving forward. So, you know, they say there's the stages of grief, and we all go through it. But one of the stages is acceptance. And once you can accept what's happened, you will now be able to move forward. Make your health a priority. So I said we are the #1. We have to be #1. Again, you're the vessel, and if you're empty, you're not running on any energy, you've got nothing else to give, and you yourself will end up succumbing and having issues yourself. Getting enough rest and eating properly. I actually go into this a little bit more with what I do for self-care, the importance of sleep and nutrition, making time for leisure, decompression. You need time with friends. You still have to live a life, and you still have to be able to have some enjoyment. Quality of life is just as important for you as it is for the person that you're caregiving for. Be good to yourself. Don't feel that you don't deserve to do certain things or to pamper yourself once in a while. Again, your quality of life matters. And then share your feelings with others. Keeping to yourself, it's a very isolated feeling, and you're not learning anything, you're not learning any lessons learned or tips or what resources are out there. You know, maybe there's something there that's completely pertains to you that could actually make your life a whole lot easier. So yes, it takes a village. So healthy caregivers, they require connection, community, and care. And it says healthy caregivers. So you can be a caregiver, but if you want to be a healthy caregiver, you have to be willing to let the village in. So speak up and ask for help. Don't be shy. Tell your family, your friends, your support group how they can help. And you do not need to be alone in this. So my self-care, what do I do? So the first thing is I manage myself. I recognize how I'm doing that day, and I adjust accordingly. Some days I'm very tired. Other days I might be so busy the night before that I can pretty much guarantee the next day I'm not doing much extra. And that's because I'm starting to really recognize, or as the next point says, listening to my mind and body and listening to what it has to say. And, you know, I have in the past pushed myself too hard, but then I either get sick or I get burnt out or I get super cranky or it affects my sleep, and then there's all these other issues that come into play. So if you can, be proactive, listen to yourself. Prioritize and plan, you know, figure out what your priorities are, and then, you know, be able to plan that you're also a priority. So what is it that you need as well? And sleep. So not getting enough sleep, this can do so much harm in your life. If there's one thing that I've figured out, and it took years, was that with the PTSD, I train in my sleep. So I train about really awful things, which means I train about nightmares. And my brain doesn't shut down. So I'm constantly situationally aware. And when you can't reach deep sleep, it means that your brain can't mend. So that's where the brain fog, cognitive issues, concentration, focus, a lot of these issues relate to sleep. So it's possible, I'm sure, a lot of you out there might be thinking, oh, right, I don't sleep very well, or I haven't slept very well, or I'm not, you know, figuring out why I'm having certain issues. You know, if you boiled it back, you know, start with your sleep and then, you know, see what you need to do in order to improve that aspect of your life. Nutrition. So in the military, we were so active. And, you know, we'd go out drinking on a Friday night, and then the next morning, what would you crave but a Big Mac and fries? And this is what we did because we were very active people. We can totally handle putting this garbage into our mouths on a regular basis. And I shouldn't say garbage. I mean, it's fun, but it's certainly not something that you want to build a menu off of. So I'm guilty. I just had some McDonald's the other day. So anyways, but the point is if you're not feeding your body the nutrition, what it needs to absorb in order to keep your body healthy, then you're just putting in waste, and your body's just going to get rid of it, and then doesn't have much to hold on to. So again, that'll affect all the different systems in your body. It's going to affect, how your brain is function. You might have digestive issues. All these aspects actually just increase your stress level. So if you can pay attention and try and, I mean, we all want to have, the odd meal off and have some celebrations, but a general idea, if you're looking for your mental health and overall well-being, focus on maybe meal prep or just meal planning and see how you feel after that. Water intake. So we tend to walk around dehydrated. So increasing your water intake, not only will it physically improve things, it'll also help flush the toxins and improve your overall digestive health, but it will improve your skin, and obviously then you would be dehydrated. So there's just so many positives that come from drinking more water. So if there are a few things that you can do, watching what you eat and drinking more water are two really good ones to start, and might actually improve your sleep as well. So exercise, get outside. So the importance of actual fresh air versus staying indoors and not getting any. So I have a really hard time with this time of year. And, I find it quite difficult and depressing. So last year I had a very tough time, and I've been preparing myself for it. Again, remember I planned since August to try and figure out what can I do to mitigate the depression, the seasonal affect disorder. The whole, Afghanistan tour, August to Feb, is, every year we celebrate the anniversary of something. So there's that constant connection to Afghanistan every single year. And of course, we just celebrated Jodi's 10th Alive Day. So, some big celebrations were very recent. So exercise, just getting outside. If you don't have a chance to get to the gym, go outside, go for a brisk walk, park farther away from the shopping center. I do laugh, if you don't have any physical limitations, I laugh at the people that will drive around and around a parking lot, waiting for the closest spot to then just go inside and spend an hour walking around the shop. So I always found that quite amusing, because I'm like, wow, or you could just park here and go inside. But that's just me. So yes, go outside, walk your dogs, take your kids to the hill, plan ahead and decide what activities that you want to do, and try and do them on a regular basis, and that will also improve your mood. So scheduling time just for you. This is where getting to know yourself and your limitations becomes very important. If you have a very demanding day, evening, or night ahead, scheduling your time to decompress and relax is super important to keep your energy and mood up. So what I found for me is, because I'm going at it pretty much all day long, is I need a little bit of time in the morning. After the rush of getting the kids to school, getting their lunches packed, I need a little downtime just to decompress. Then I can slowly allow my head to unscramble so I can figure out what I need to do for the rest of the day. Okay. So activities that help me. So family activities. Include your kids and family as much as possible. When you are a caregiver, it affects everyone in your family. So involve them as much as possible. Let them help you. You'd be pretty impressed at what nurturing little people they can become when you allow them to be a part of that. So with the family activities, do things that you can do together, whether it's watching a movie, if you're able to actually get out of the house, what activities are in the local area that you could all participate in. That's good for the person you're caring for and, the caregiver, the family, whoever is able. I guess, then you could consider doing these activities. Communication. I'm always working on this. It is so easy to internalize your feelings, and you know, if you spend a lot of time kind of by yourself in the day, you know, you don't really sit there by yourself and have conversations, but you definitely think about stuff in your head. So I guess technically you're having a conversation in your head, it's just nobody knows it. But you get to the point of where you aren't used to almost speaking out loud. So the importance of communicating, you know, talk about, you know, what's coming up, talk about what you'd like to do, keep your line of communication open as much as possible. Yoga. So I like yoga. I'm just awful getting to yoga. So sometimes I need to stress or need to stretch, or I need to decompress. So I'll take out my yoga mat and my foam roll, and I'll just roll out the tension. And I find that helps so much. Dog walking. So I have 200 pounds of dogs. So I have 2 big dogs, and they need, it's their turn, and they need to get out. They need to stretch their legs. They need to sniff who's been there before them, and leave any messages behind. And the point is that because they need it, it's a no-brainer. I can do it. If I need it, that's the part that I have difficulty with. So maybe create an environment where lots of things need you, so that it forces you to go and do these things. And I tell you, walking outside, having the sun hit your face and having the fresh air, as long as you dress for it, you can enjoy that walk. There's a trail that I go on, and as soon as I hit it, and as soon as I'm surrounded by the trees, I feel my blood pressure just goes down. And so, maybe find out, what are you drawn to? Like, what works for you to help decrease the stress? My children's extracurriculars. I have very busy little girls that do a lot of dance, and they do brownies, and they do sparks, and then we do our seasonal stuff. We did skiing over the holidays. They'll play soccer in the summertime. We do swimming. So, I'm trying to give them, they're not going to be experts at all of this stuff, but I'm trying to give them a taste and, keep them busy. Anyone having, a good level of activity, I mean, it's healthy for everyone. So because they're busy, it means that I'm busy by default. So I'm sure all you moms or dads out there that have kids in hockey and other sports, or maybe similar gymnastics, dance, swimming, like, it's busy, but it means that you're not staying home, and it means that it's pushing you out. And I think that's if you can, I think that's a really good way to help. So soccer. So I've always played soccer, and I joined a mom's league in my local area. So find, and that's also another network. It's another network of people that I can, go out after my soccer game and have a drink and just decompress a little bit. I say really it's my one time a week where I can just go out and just chill for a couple hours, and then it's back to life the next day. But if you can find out, what was it as a kid that you really enjoyed? What is it that something that you've done? It doesn't have to be as a kid, but maybe you enjoyed art, or, maybe finally actually being able to read that novel that you've been holding on to. Find the things that help with your stress levels. And planning and hosting my own ladies' nights. So sometimes it's just easier as moms with kids to just host these nights where they bring their kids too. And then that way it's kind of win-win. Kids get play dates, and the moms and dads get play dates. So if you can, consider hosting, or maybe a friend will host, but I guess the point is having interaction. Gym and exercise, kind of along the same lines as what I was saying earlier. If you can create a schedule and do something on a regular basis, that would be excellent. And allowing myself to be pampered. I still have problems with this. I do my hair maybe twice a year, usually on a whim, because I just finally get frustrated when I realize my hair is in a ponytail all the time. I don't do my nails very often, so I just find that I have to think about that, and then I'll do it. But a lot of times it's not what's on my mind. It's not my priority. I suppose, you know, just getting to the shower and washing my hair and blow drying and stuff, that's a really good start, you know. So consider that being pampered, you know, we should. And if you do it more often, then kudos to you, because I need to try. I have to work on that. Getting away. And this could just mean getting out of the house, or it could mean a bed and breakfast, or a local, you know, local trip to the ski hill, Mont Tremblant, if you lived in my area. Or, you know, maybe you're going to go finally visit that friend that you've been talking about. So again, back to the planning, to be able to plan for it, to have a contingency in place. So, you know, who's going to take over what you've been doing as a caregiver while you're away. So figuring out who those people are, coming up with a plan that would allow you, you know, even just a small escape, if it means getting out for a coffee, going out for dinner, seeing a movie, going over to a friend's house, you need to be able to do some of that. So morning, afternoon, and evening chill time. So somewhere in your day, give yourself some fluff time. So I call it fluff because it's time with no substance. It's like, it's not, you don't have to think about anything serious. You just have to, you know, chill. If it means go online, I'm a big fan of Pinterest. So if there's something that you enjoy that just kind of like takes your mind away just for a little while, then do that. Mental decompression. So solar powered. So I make jokes about this, but I really feel that I am solar powered. The least amount of light, then I tend, like on super gray days, I just feel like I'm more depressed, that, you know, my LED hasn't charged well enough because the sun wasn't bright enough, or the sky wasn't bright enough to, and I feel like I'm dim light if I don't have access to that sunlight. So I definitely am driven by the sun. So what did I do for that? So I bought a sun lamp. So the one I bought is actually, it's an alarm clock. And it gets really, really bright. So if I have it set for 7 o'clock in the morning, 20 minutes before, it'll just slowly start getting bright, just kind of like the sun rising. And then when it's time for my alarm, then the happy little birds start chirping. Sometimes it's just a little too early for happy birds, so I might snooze once or twice until I'm willing to accept their happiness. And then once that happens, then I don't know, there's just, I feel so much better getting up than I do or I did before with a normal alarm clock. So if you're someone who struggles, especially this time of year, I highly recommend the Philips, what is it, a Philips sunlight or sun lamp or something. Anyways, you can look it up and you can find it, I'm sure. It's an alarm clock and they're fantastic. It's just one of the tools in my toolbox. Vitamins and supplements. So the majority of us don't eat well enough on a good day. So it really is important to, you know, have the vitamins, supplement if you're not having enough protein. You know, vitamins could be just your multivitamin. It could be an increase in vitamin D, which I do. which makes a big difference considering mine's, relating to sleep and the seasonal affect disorder and stuff. So regular vitamin intake and lots of water would be very helpful. And then joining groups. So for me, being part of the military, veteran, and family organizations, I find it to be very important. It's a part of who I am, and it's a big area where I identify with. So we're a big community. We've got lots of knowledge, lots of peer mentorship. The biggest thing is no matter what comes at you, that there's a community here and that there will be people that can, at least help guide you to what resources you might be available to, or maybe they'll just be able to lend an ear or some time so that you have a bit of social. So joining groups is a big one. And I had mentioned, I think previously when I said online, when you can't get out. All right. So I was going through and I was making this list and I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I'm starting to make the list and I realized I'm sure maybe I'm missing other things. So I thought I would put the question out and see, what is it that other people do for their own self-care activity.
So the best way to do this is to grab your pointer on the top left-hand side of the screen, which is the arrow on the left-hand side. And if you click on the arrow, then click on the screen, you can save a little spot for yourself. Maureen and Lisa and Ed, if you want to try that. Hello.
Now
We're going to try.
Same as me, yay!
There we go, Lisa. So then you grab the letter T, the capital T, and just click beside your pointer and some self-care activities that you do that work for you, because everybody self-care is different and it won't, what one works for one won't necessarily work for another. So we'll just give you a minute to write a few of your thoughts on what do you do for self-care, or what do you think you should do for yourself? Sometimes it's hard to actually do it, How did you improve your sleep, Alannah? You said that your sleep is not always great. How did you improve that?
I'm medicated.
Well, medicate, drugs are good.
And the worst part is it took years to figure out the cause. A lot of times they treat you for symptoms, but until you find that cause, it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid that keeps getting wet and it keeps falling off. So, we finally figured out the problem was my brain just didn't shut down. So the medication that I needed to take was relating to that. It's a big difference. It's still not, the full solution or anything, but if I look at where I was before and where I am now, big, huge difference. And again, a lot of it is onus on me too. What can I do also? And that's where the nutrition, the water, and the vitamins, and the exercise, and the mental aspect. So many of these things all come into play, and that's what makes or breaks your day.
Absolutely. So Lisa, your font is very small, but I can read it still. It says, spending time creating art, photography, and outdoors.
Nice. Very nice. Exercise, sleep, friends, talk. Out, listening to music, painting my toes. Can you paint my toes? I always forget. Oh, it's awful. Yes, I should totally do that. Just go for a drive. Raining, nice.
I live in a small remote location, and there's no English spoken in my area. And so I have decided as a New Year resolution to just get outside once every day. And
German course at all?
I just started that actually, Mondays and Wednesdays, and it's quite funny because she speaks only German, so I don't understand a word she's saying for the most part, but it's all good. Maureen, I'm not able to see what you've written. Oh, there you go. Oh, it's hard to see on the green. Okay, so staying close to music, producing, and eating meals that I prepare. Being oops, being mindful and gently playful.
Oh, very nice. So I think a lot of us are along the same line. All right, did we get everyone for that one then?
We did, yes.
Perfect. So I'll move on. So I found this slide. Just care for someone can sometimes bring hope when all seems hopeless. And, you know, this could be not just the person that you're caregiving for, but maybe you as the caregiver, you know, recognizes that you're having a very difficult time, and just to be there and remind them that you're there and that they're not alone, so they recognize that life is not fully hopeless right now. Okay, so continuing to serve. So this was, I was interviewed, still, CTV. I can't keep track. So this was an interview with CTV, and I'm pretty sure it was around, well, it was around Remembrance Day, but I think they were just talking about treatment of wounded soldiers or something. I can't fully remember. So my retirement. So in July of 2015, I retired after 23 years. I had hoped that I was organized and ready to leave the military. Once I hung up the uniform one last time, I began to notice that I no longer knew how to refer to myself. I had no idea what I was going to do. I was having a major identity crisis. I felt I no longer had passion, and what I thought I would do after I retired, I realized was not what I wanted at all. I felt myself digressing and becoming extremely depressed and stressed. I was having issues with my health, my medications, and weight gain. I realized how scary it is when you can't see into the future and know that eventually the puzzle pieces will fall into place. So this was a year ago for me. I mean, when you go from being something for so long to just being retired but with no plan, you know, I found that really, really, I'm a planner. So I need a plan A, B, and C. And when there's none on that board and I've got nothing to fill it in with because I hadn't gotten there yet, yeah, I became very depressed and very stressed, and it affected my sleep, and then it affected weight gain, and then I was eating poorly and, you know, doing all the things that we tend to do when it feels like everything's crumbling down around us. So I realized, again, I'm like, I've got to stop this spiral, and I need to work my way back up again, and I need to start making positive changes. So I had to take control back, and I decided that my full-time job was going to be my health, and, you know, everything that would be involved in, you know, what I need would become my priority. So seeing my specialists, going to the chiropractor on a regular basis. So being consistent, because, you know, we all tend to, oh, I have a pain now, I go see the chiropractor, the pain goes, and I'm like, good, I stop going. Well, I mean, eventually, I mean, if you're talking about an injury, that pain comes back. So sometimes just maintaining yourself keeps you in balance. And when you start and stop something, you're not balanced. So the focus of balance, maintaining, having a schedule, you know, being aware of your body and your mind again, just like we had on that previous slide. So what I had to do is I had to figure out what would be involved in that. I started getting asked to be part of veterans groups and to become a spokesperson for various issues. Over the course of my relationship with Jody, we went to a lot of events. We spoke to a lot of people in different positions. You know, you recognize that some, you know, make the offer, but, you know, aren't really in for the uptake, I guess, when you actually try and get them to help you. And then you meet the other ones that are true to their word and would move, whatever it would take and introduce you to whoever it is that would be the appropriate person to talk to. So you will figure out who those people are. So for me, I was nervous. Here I was being asked to do it now as a veteran. And in the beginning, I was like, okay, well, I just retired. It's only been a year. What could I possibly bring to the table? I don't know enough. So it took a lot of preparing and just even getting out the door and going to that first venue, that first event. And then I started to realize, wow, I have lots to talk about, actually. And, the biggest reason is because I lived it. This is personal experience. And, I started finding myself in, a position of where, as long as I do it tactfully, I can voice my opinion. For years, it'd been 10 years, I had no voice, and now I do, and people actually want to hear what I have to say. That's big. So I was now finding, my purpose. So, those puzzle pieces, I now had a puzzle piece, and I was like, okay, what can I do with that? And it was just, the introduction. It was just the beginning. So, then I got asked to be on the advisory groups on behalf of families. So, I'm just an advocate. I am a volunteer. I don't fall under any one umbrella. When I speak from the heart. I speak from experience. I speak from, the stresses, of my past. And, I'm a firm believer in solution-based versus problem-based. So when I speak, I try to kind of, think about it and, well, what direction can we go and how can we better improve services for our men and women? So it's been a year, and so I'm working with the advisory group with FAC. I'm also working with the new special section, the OSI section with the Legion. I've been asked to sit on another board. I've been invited as a guest to group meetings, all relating to veterans and families. And, I'm starting to really get a hang of this. The more I'm exposed to it, the more information I'm getting. I mean, there's so much information. There's so many groups. It's completely overwhelming. So anytime I'm out there, I'm like, okay, if I'm overwhelmed, what's the person that's not here? So I try to, see, how do we simplify this and make it, as easy on the people that are accessing these services. But I guess the big point is I found my passion again, and I have purpose. So, where I was a year ago to where I am this year, it wasn't easy. I felt blindsided, majority of the time. And I wasn't giving myself enough credit that, I had, I was a really good fit for, helping other families that find themselves in similar predicaments. So that's what I'm doing. Here's a picture. I think this was at the summit, the Veterans Affairs Summit back in October. And the advisory group, we were giving our presentation on what our recommendations were. So just a little picture there. Finding your resources. So I call it customizing tools for your toolbox. So finding out information that pertains to you and your family situation. There is so much information out there, but you want to be able to narrow it down and, simplify it so again, it's not too overwhelming, and just find the tidbits of information that you find to be very helpful. Information is power. So, by not accessing the resources or not connecting with groups or similar communities, you're basically preventing yourself from knowing information that could actually really improve your day-to-day. So information is power. You might not be able to control the outcome, but at least you'll have the information and you'll be able to make, I guess an educated, you could have an educated opinion on something because you've been able to look at the material there and make a decision based on that information. And instead of solely just hearing it, when, say, a doctor is explaining something to you, maybe there's a pamphlet that also gives a little bit more information, or maybe there's a link to a website that has even more information. Maybe there's a support group. So all these things is just, seek out what resources are available to you. So again, I had mentioned some of these before, but check out, Veterans Affairs, apps for your tablets or phone, any of the local resources, national resources, your Military Family Resource Center, which also has a few pilot programs. I think it's at 7 different locations. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Margaret, where they're running these pilot programs for medically released soldiers and families, that they still have a link with the Military Family Resource Center. And our hopes would be to increase this to all veterans and families. And
that is correct. There are 7 right now that are piloting the project for the military members who are medically releasing within 2 years.
Right.
To assist, yeah.
Yeah, so we would love that to get extended and be available to everyone. Again, I'm a big fan of overlap, and you want to know why? Because overlapping resources, overlapping courses, programs, it means you, as a person who's requiring this information, actually has an option. You are being given options. So if you say, no, so-and-so is already doing that in that large geographical area, I'm like, okay, so why can't we let someone else also, be there and just be one more resource for that toolbox? So share, overlap, let's do it. Okay, so I included the Veteran Affairs Canada Assistance Service. It's the same number, apparently, as the Members Assistance Program that serving members and families also have access to. You can go on, and if you're having issues right now that you don't have a counselor in place, you can go online and hopefully they can help guide you or provide you some counseling assistance. So again, that's just telling you what they do. The free counseling up to 20 hours, and I say up to. And then maybe they can help with a referral if you are requiring long-term counseling, or if you have very specific counseling, PTSD, etc. Family information line. And here, this is psycharmor.org. It's an American site, but it's got tons of information. And, as Canadians, we can kind of sift through the part that we know doesn't pertain to us. But other than that, the courses and, the tips and tools, I feel a lot of them can translate across the border. So this is a picture of Jody, myself, and our oldest daughter at the time. She had just turned 1. And this was in 2009, and Jody ran the half marathon. And I just wanted to share, just, family pride. So Namita, appreciate this. This was at the inaugural True Patriot Love Gala in Toronto in 2009. And right behind my shoulder, you'll see retired Prime Minister Harper, and I can't remember if his wife was there or not. We were at the same table as them. And this one, so Jody retired in 2014. I retired in 2015. So this would have been Remembrance Day of 2014. And it's the last picture we have of both of us in uniform with the girls. So it's kind of a big deal. And then this one I thought I would share. So it's become our family tradition on Jody's Alive Days that we would celebrate his prosthetics with as bright and colorful socks as we could possibly find to go on his fake feet. And kids get a kick out of it, he gets a kick out of it, and he wears them, like he's a city councilor now, he wears them proudly every day, so it's awesome. So, you know, why not? Celebrate what you can. You know, celebrate, you know, the small stuff. So I'd just like to thank everyone who had an opportunity to join, and to those who will be checking out the recording at another time in the future. If there's anything that you can take away from this, you know, just recognize, you know, we all have struggles, we all need help, we all have our own story, but you're not alone. So don't be afraid to reach out, and also offer. If you're in the capacity where you can lend a hand to someone else, you know, extend that. You know, it's amazing what, you know, just a little act of kindness can do in someone's maybe not so good day. And, you know, help them navigate, help them get through, show them that, you know, you're willing to assist them, because it can all be very daunting and overwhelming. And I'm sure, you know, a lot of people that have had dealings or negative dealings with Veterans Affairs can attest to that. The more we help each other, the stronger our community will be, and the healthier our community will be. So let's keep building and let's keep supporting. And again, just don't be afraid to reach out. So we've got, so that's the most recent family picture taken in December, I believe. So door prizes and evaluation, comments or questions?
Yeah, do you have any questions for Alannah? You can unmute your microphones. And the other thing that I wanted to share with you is there are door prizes for tonight. So we just added one specially for you, Alannah. We added Unflinching, the book. So there we go. We've now got 4 prizes. Maureen and Shelley and Lisa will win a gift card, and Chloe will win the book. Unflinching, Making of a Canadian Sniper. And wow, you are such a gifted spokesperson, and I can see how you can really impact so many people with your story, and also with your points are so valuable. And I'm just so excited that you are here tonight and that you shared with us some of the things, you know, especially about caregiving, whereas human beings were sometimes our toughest critics. And, you know, to be able to share that, and to share that, no, I'm not always going to be doing things, but I certainly try, and it's all about the trying. And remembering that it takes a village. So thank you so much for coming out. And Namita, did you want to add anything?
I just wanted to thank Alannah for sharing her story with everyone. I actually had written something down. I wrote down something that you said. You said, being angry doesn't improve my mood. It does not improve my quality of life. And I think when you tie that to the last point that you made about enjoying the small moments and appreciating what you do have, it's quite moving. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you, Namita. Those are very strong points. I'm like, wow, that's really good. That came out of my mouth. I'm impressed.
You're a very good speaker. Ed, did you have a question?
Well, no, I just wanted to say it was just a remarkable presentation, Alannah, and you did a marvelous job of your PowerPoint presentation as well.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to thank you, you and Jody, for for serving our country and you know, and continue to do the work that you're doing, both of you. You know, it's remarkable, and my just peace be with you for the rest of your journey.
Well, thank you very much.
And you want to sign off now, folks. You folks have a great evening.
Okay. Good night, Ed. Lisa or Maureen, did you want to say anything? Your microphones are muted. Other than that, to exit out, you click on the red X on the top right-hand side of the screen. And we'll be here in case you have any questions. I'm going to stop the recording now.